Sausage.
Hello everyone, this is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marc, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about The Quiet Man, the game about some little emo deaf boy that's based on the John Wayne classic about Ireland, romance, and being too damn good at boxing. I'll admit, I struggled to see how the game, a remake of the 1952 film, actually had anything to do with the film, but when I sat back and thought about it, it all became clear. Little emo deaf boy like John Wayne has a girl he likes, a girl who looks shockingly like his mother, and when I say like his mother, I mean they're the same person, the same actor that is, and leaves the player with only one question. Does little emo deaf boy want to fuck his mother? I can't say for sure, but the game may be onto something. I mean, John Wayne was going back to his native Ireland in hopes of reclaiming his homestead when he ended up falling in love with an Irish girl who may or may not have looked somewhat or exactly like his mother. Maybe The Quiet Man, the game, is just being more explicit with the details we all know deep down in our heart. That John Wayne is a motherfucker, or at least strives to be one. But wait, there's more. Like in The Quiet Man, there's a lot of fighting in The Quiet Man, except The Quiet Man has way more fighting than The Quiet Man. Both Quiet Men fight across their respective towns, but The Quiet Man only fights the same person the whole time, whereas The Quiet Man fights a whole bunch of people across town. That said, while The Quiet Man may fight a lot of different people, a lot of them look pretty similar, so he could be fighting clones of the same person given the advancements in technology in between The Quiet Man and The Quiet Man. Nevertheless, both The Quiet Man and The Quiet Man involve fighting with one's fist, and if that's not enough to prove The Quiet Man is a modern retelling of The Quiet Man, then I don't know what is. How about this? Both The Quiet Man and The Quiet Man have romances, as I mentioned earlier with all the motherfucking stuff. Ignoring the potential incestual nature of these Quiet Men's fantasies, both Quiet Men love someone who others are trying to keep them from. At least I think the Quiet Man loves this woman who looks exactly like his mother, but since he's deaf and I can't read lips or sign language like him, I don't actually know what the fuck is going on with him, except that the Quiet Man actually has nothing to do with the Quiet Man, if that wasn't already obvious. However, The Quiet Man, starring John Wayne, isn't too bad, unlike The Quiet Man starring Who Gives a Fuck, and I recommend it if you want a beautifully shot, traditional and old-fashioned romance, and this is coming from someone who doesn't usually like John Wayne. Anyway, I guess I should maybe start talking about the game for real at this point. Starting with the story, I don't know what the fuck is going on with the story. This is, of course, because you, the player, are given very little to work with initially since you can't hear anyone, which is frustrating since the character you're playing, Little Emo Deaf Boy, who has a name but I refuse to look it up and use it, can read lips and sign language, meaning they're more informed than you. What would have been nice is if you got subtitles whenever Little Emo Deaf Boy understood something and nothing when someone was speaking without looking at him or when he wasn't in a scene at all. I know the reason for this is because you're meant to play through the game a second time with the audio then unlocked, but no way in fuck am I going through this 3-hour mess of a game again to understand the story. As far as I'm concerned, from what I could gather from my mostly quiet playthrough, you're some punk ass little emo deaf boy who grew up to be muscle for your punk ass childhood friend and loves some proper ass woman who looks exactly like your mother, you fucking weirdo. You rough up some guys, they get pissed, and then they kidnap your girl who your punk ass childhood friend also likes. This is where some dude in a bird skull mask shows up and continues showing up until the game is over. Everyone is pissed and you end up punching a lot of fools with your fists. There are flashbacks galore showing your mother's death, and it first looks like the bird skull fucker is the kid who shot your mother, but then it looks like you were the bird skull fucker, except then your punk ass childhood friend turns out to be the bird skull fucker before you take the mask and become the bird skull fucker for real this time. You may think that's the end, but then the cop who was assigned to your mother's death back in the day shows up, puts the mask on, and now he's the bird skull fucker. I now realize it sounds like I'm saying all these people fuck bird skulls, and while that may not be my intention, they might as well fuck bird skulls for all I care. You end up remembering that your punk ass childhood friend was the one who pulled out the gun back in the day, and it's actually your your fault your mother died, because being the smart kid you were, when you saw your punk-ass childhood friend pointing a gun at another kid, you thought to yourself, you know what? This looks like the perfect time to run up to him with a big smile and say, "Hi, buddy, how are you doing today? Isn't it such a beautiful day in the neighborhood? A beautiful day for a neighbor. Could you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?" Of course this distracts him, allowing the other kid to rush him in hopes of getting the gun, and then they shoot your mother together like true bros. Good job, you dumbass little punk-ass emo boy. Get a fucking haircut, you piece of shit. But that's not all. At the very end, you realize the cop kidnapped your mother's lookalike because that would be the only way to save her, and if you're wondering why all this had to happen, I guess you'll just have to play the game. This time with audio. Fuck you, and oh yeah, fuck you. The Quiet Man sucks. It's a game that plays like shit and then has the balls to say, if you really want to experience the whole story, you're going to have to play through the whole game twice. Combat is trash and never explains itself, so you just have to figure things out on your own. If you pause the game and press various buttons, it will show you what each button does, but it never tells you anything in-game. Most combat amounts to nothing but button mashing, and when you have to fight more skilled enemies who know how to block, you then have to rely on the inconsistent counter system or the whatever the fuck it is powered up mode that lets you beat the shit out of anyone without worry, sans the handful of bosses you fight. Speaking of bosses, they all suck ass and are annoying as shit. Later bosses can be cheesed pretty easily, but your first boss encounter against the other kid who shot your mother was just a massive pain in the ass, and it was never clear what you actually needed to do. Honestly, there's nothing else to say about The Quiet Man. It's a 3-hour game made up of probably half cutscenes / FMVs, or maybe more, and then shitty, repetitive fighting in between. The FMVs make the episodes included in Quantum Break look like high art. That may be harsh, given I couldn't hear any of the actors, but if their physical performances are anything to go by, I'm sure their vocal performances are just as shitty. I went into The Quiet Man thinking, how bad could it really be? And I left saying, oh. The Quiet Man is a waste of time, and I recommend it to no one. It doesn't even have a platinum trophy. How fucking dare you? How dare you? Anyway, I think it's about time I went quiet on The Quiet Man. So that will do it for this episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marc. Y'all can find me on Twitter and pretty much everywhere at PXSausage. The site is, of course, pixelatedsausage.com, where you can find this podcast, the Pixelated Sausage Podcast, and On Amazingly Baka, all of which are available on podcast services across the globe. You can also check out the art I make on the site, and if you see something you like, you can purchase a print of the piece you fancy. And if you fancy the site in general and anything that we do, please go over to patreon.com/pxs and support us that way. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.